Chapter 1. Echoes of the Past. The morning mist clung to Eldergrove, weaving through the cobblestone streets and wrapping the village in a shroud of mystery. Windy Jean stood at the window of her grandmother's old room, watching the tendrils of fog dance with the first rays of sunlight. The room was a time capsule, untouched by the years since her grandmother's passing, filled with memories and whispers of stories untold. It was here, in this room that smelled faintly of lavender and old books, that Windy stumbled upon a secret. She had been searching for a book to read on a quiet Sunday morning when she noticed a wooden box tucked away in a dusty corner. Its hinges groaned in protest as she opened it, revealing a leather-bound journal nestled among dried flowers and brittle letters. The journal's cover was worn, its edges frayed from use. As Windy flipped it open, the pages crackled under her fingers. The handwriting was familiar. Elegant loops and flourishes she recognized from birthday cards and notes left on the kitchen table. Her grandmother's hand, steady and sure, guiding her through time. The entries were cryptic, filled with sketches of the ancient clock tower that loomed over Eldergrove like a sentinel. The tower had always fascinated Windy as a child, its hands frozen in place as if caught in an eternal moment. But now, with her grandmother's journal in hand, it took on new significance. Her eyes lingered on a particular entry. The clock holds secrets that bind time itself. The prophecy speaks of a cycle unbroken, a catastrophe looming unless the forgotten are remembered. A chill ran down Windy's spine. Her grandmother had always spoken in riddles, weaving tales of magic and mystery into everyday life. But this was different. This felt real. Determined to understand, she sought out her grandfather, Lennox Jean. He was in the garden, tending to the roses her grandmother had loved so dearly. His hands were weathered but gentle as they cradled each bloom. "Grandpa," Windy called softly, holding up the journal. "I found something." Lennox looked up, his eyes softening with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. "Ah, that old thing," he said, wiping his hands on his apron. "Your grandmother spent years with her nose buried in those pages." Windy joined him on the bench, the journal resting between them. What was she looking for? He sighed deeply, gazing at the distant clock tower. She believed there was more to Eldergrove than met the eye, a story woven into its very fabric, one that only she could unravel. Windy listened intently as he spoke of her grandmother's unfinished quest, a journey to unlock the secrets hidden within the clock tower's ancient stones. Lennox's voice carried the weight of history and loss, echoing tales passed down through generations. "She was convinced," Lennox continued, "that our village is at the heart of something much larger, a prophecy about time itself, a cycle that must be completed or risk disaster." Windy's mind raced with possibilities. Her grandmother had always been drawn to mysteries, but this seemed beyond even her wildest imaginings. The idea of a prophecy tied to Eldergrove was both thrilling and terrifying. "What kind of catastrophe?" Windy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lennox shook his head slowly. "I don't know, my dear. She never found out before she left us." Silence settled between them like the mist outside. Windy felt a connection to her grandmother stronger than ever, a pull to continue what had been started long ago. "I want to finish what she began," Windy declared, determination lighting her eyes. "I want to understand this prophecy." Lennox studied her for a moment, then nodded with a sad smile. "You're more like her than you know." With her grandfather's blessing and the journal clutched tightly in her hands, Windy stood up, feeling the weight of responsibility mingling with excitement. The path before her was uncertain, but she knew it was one she had to take. As she left the garden, Windy glanced back at Lennox. He waved encouragingly before returning to his roses, his own form of solace amidst the chaos of time. Inside the house once more, Windy found herself drawn to the window again. The mist had begun to lift, revealing Eldergrove in all its quaint charm. But now she saw it differently, as a place brimming with untold stories and hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. Her resolve solidified with each step she took back inside. The journal would be her guide, leading her through echoes of the past toward whatever lay ahead. And so began Windy Jean's journey, a quest to decipher her grandmother's legacy and uncover the secrets of Eldergrove's forgotten clock tower. A quest that promised danger and discovery in equal measure, setting the stage for an adventure unlike any other. With one last look at the journal's cryptic pages, Wendy knew that she had taken the first step into a world where time itself held its breath, waiting for someone brave enough to listen to its whispers and heed its call. Chapter 2: Riddles in the Mist. Wendy Jean awoke the next morning with the journal still clutched in her hands, its presence both a comfort and a challenge. The sunlight filtering through her curtains seemed to beckon her outside, urging her to continue the quest she had committed to just the day before. Her grandmother's words lingered in her mind like the echoes of a distant bell, each note urging her forward. After a quick breakfast with Lennox, who offered gentle encouragement and a reminder to stay cautious, Wendy set off toward the clockmaker's workshop. The streets of Eldergrove were still cloaked in mist, the cobblestones slick beneath her feet. She pulled her scarf tighter around her neck, feeling the cool air nip at her skin as she walked. The clockmaker's workshop sat at the edge of the village, an unassuming building that seemed to breathe with history. Its walls were lined with ivy, and the windows were clouded with dust and mystery. Wendy hesitated at the door, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. The air was thick with the scent of oil and metal, mingling with the musty aroma of old wood. Clocks of every shape and size ticked quietly from their perches on shelves and tables, each one a testament to time's relentless march. In the center of it all stood the clockmaker himself, an enigmatic figure whose eyes seemed to twinkle with secrets. "Ah, Miss Jean," he greeted, his voice smooth and warm like melted chocolate. "I've been expecting you." Wendy blinked in surprise. "You have?" He nodded, gesturing for her to sit at a cluttered workbench. Word travels fast in Eldergrove, especially when it concerns matters of time. She settled onto a stool, her eyes scanning the room's myriad curiosities. "I need your help," she began, pulling out the journal. "My grandmother, she wrote about the clock tower and a prophecy. I think she was trying to uncover something important." The clockmaker leaned closer, his expression one of intrigue. "Your grandmother was a wise woman, always seeking answers where others saw only puzzles." He paused, his gaze drifting to a large grandfather clock that stood sentinel in the corner. "Time is a tapestry, Miss Jean, woven with threads of what was, what is, and what could be." Wendy felt a shiver of excitement mingled with frustration. "But what does that mean? How do I find what she was looking for?" The clockmaker chuckled softly, his eyes alight with mischief. "Ah, but that's the riddle, isn't it? Time doesn't give up its secrets easily." He rose from his seat, moving to a shelf lined with small mechanical parts. As he spoke, he picked up a delicate gear and held it up to the light. "Every piece has its place in the grand design. Sometimes you must look beyond what's visible to find what truly matters." Wendy's brow furrowed as she tried to grasp his meaning. "Are you saying there's something hidden in the clock tower?" "Perhaps," he replied cryptically, returning the gear to its place. "Or perhaps it's hidden within yourself." Their conversation continued like this, a dance of riddles and half-truths that left Wendy both intrigued and vexed. Each question she posed was met with an answer that seemed to lead to more questions, yet there was a sense of purpose behind his words that she couldn't ignore. As she prepared to leave, the clockmaker handed her a small brass key. It was ornate and heavy in her palm, its surface etched with symbols that matched those in her grandmother's sketches. "This might help you on your journey," he said with a knowing smile. "But remember, time is both ally and adversary. Use it wisely." Wendy nodded, slipping the key into her pocket. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "I won't forget this." With a final nod from the clockmaker, she stepped back into the mist-shrouded streets of Eldergrove. The weight of the key against her leg was a constant reminder of the task ahead, a tangible link to the mysteries she sought to unravel. As she walked homeward, Wendy's mind churned with possibilities. The clockmaker's riddles had stirred something within her, a deeper understanding that perhaps the answers she sought lay not just in physical discovery, but in introspection as well. The village around her seemed to pulse with life, as if aware of her quest. Each shadow held secrets. Each breeze whispered tales untold. The mist clung to her like a second skin, urging her onward even as it obscured her path. By the time she reached her doorstep, Wendy felt both exhausted and invigorated, her determination renewed by the morning's encounter. She knew that deciphering her grandmother's legacy would require patience and courage in equal measure. Inside, Lennox looked up from his newspaper with a curious smile. "How did it go?" Windy grinned back at him, pulling out the brass key for him to see. "I think I'm one step closer," she replied confidently. His eyes twinkled with pride as he nodded approvingly. "Your grandmother would be proud." Buoyed by his words, Windy felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant delving deeper into riddles wrapped in mist. And so, as afternoon gave way to evening shadows stretching across Eldergrove's cobblestones once more, Windy Jean prepared herself for whatever challenges awaited beyond this chapter of her journey. A quest bound by time itself, yet driven by an unyielding spirit determined to uncover its forgotten truths. Chapter 3. Guardians of Knowledge. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the cobblestone streets of Eldergrove. Windy Jean walked briskly, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and possibilities. The brass key in her pocket felt heavier with each step, a constant reminder of the secrets she was determined to uncover. Her destination was the abode of the reclusive historian, a man known for his vast knowledge of Eldergrove's past, a man who might hold the key to understanding her grandmother's cryptic journal. The historian's house stood at the edge of the village, nestled between ancient oaks that whispered with the wind. Its stone facade was covered in creeping ivy, and the windows glowed warmly from within, contrasting with the cool dusk settling outside. Windy paused at the wrought iron gate, taking a moment to steady her nerves before pushing it open with a creak that echoed through the quiet evening. The path to the front door was lined with wildflowers, their colors muted in the fading light. She knocked gently, and after a moment the door swung open to reveal a tall, thin man with spectacles perched precariously on his nose. His eyes were sharp, yet there was a softness in them that hinted at kindness beneath his scholarly exterior. "Miss Jean," he greeted, his voice carrying a hint of surprise mixed with curiosity. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" Windy offered a polite smile, feeling slightly self-conscious under his discerning gaze. "Mr. Alaric, I was hoping you could help me understand something about Eldergrove's history, something my grandmother was researching." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. Come in, come in. Any friend of Eldergrove's mysteries is welcome here." The interior of Alaric's home was a sanctuary of knowledge. Shelves lined every wall, overflowing with books whose spines bore titles in languages read Windy couldn't begin to decipher. The air smelled of parchment and ink, mingling with the faint scent of herbs from a pot simmering on the hearth. Alaric led her to a sitting area, cluttered with scrolls and maps. He cleared a space on an armchair for her to sit before settling into his own chair opposite her. "Now," he said, steepling his fingers thoughtfully, "what can I assist you with?" Windy hesitated only briefly before pulling out her grandmother's journal and placing it on the table between them. "This belonged to my grandmother," she explained. "It mentions a prophecy tied to Eldergrove and something about a cycle that must be completed." Alaric's eyes widened slightly as he leaned forward to examine the journal. "Ah, the legends of time," he murmured, almost to himself. "Your grandmother was indeed a seeker of truth." He flipped through the pages with care, pausing occasionally to study the sketches and annotations. Windy watched him intently, hoping for some revelation that would illuminate her path. "The clock tower," Alaric said finally, tapping one of the sketches with a long finger. "It's long been considered a focal point in our village's history, a place where time converges and diverges." Windy nodded, recalling her grandfather's tales and the clockmaker's riddles. "But what about the prophecy? What does it mean?" Alaric sighed, removing his spectacles and rubbing his temples. "The prophecy speaks of balance, of cycles that govern both time and existence itself. Your grandmother believed that Eldergrove sits at a nexus point where these cycles intersect." He rose from his chair, moving to a nearby bookshelf where he retrieved an ancient tome bound in cracked leather. "There are references here," he continued, returning to his seat and opening the book to a page filled with faded script. "Mentions of guardians, those who protect knowledge passed down through generations." Windy's heart quickened as she absorbed his words. "Guardians?" she repeated softly. "Yes," Alaric confirmed. Though their identities remain shrouded in mystery, it said they hold fragments of truth essential for maintaining balance. The weight of his words settled over Wendy like a cloak, an acknowledgement that her grandmother had been part of something far greater than herself. "Do you think she was one of them?" Wendy asked quietly. Alaric met her gaze with solemn eyes. "It's possible," he replied, "and if so, it would mean you are now part of this legacy, a guardian by inheritance." The room fell silent as Wendy processed this revelation, an unspoken bond connecting her to those who had come before. "What should I do?" she asked finally. Alaric smiled gently, placing a reassuring hand over hers on the table. "Continue your quest," he advised. "Seek out those who can guide you further along your path." With renewed determination burning within her chest, Wendy nodded resolutely, grateful for Alaric's guidance yet acutely aware that much remained unknown. As she rose to leave, Alaric offered one last piece of advice. "Remember, knowledge is both power and responsibility." Wendy thanked him sincerely before stepping back into the cool night air, the stars above twinkling like ancient sentinels watching over her journey. The walk home felt different this time, each footstep echoing with purpose along Eldergrove's cobblestones. She was no longer just Wendy Jean. She was now part of something larger, a guardian entrusted with unraveling time's mysteries woven into Eldergrove's very fabric. And though uncertainty lay ahead like mist upon morning fields, obscuring yet enticing, she felt ready for whatever challenges awaited beyond this chapter in her story. For within every riddle lay an answer, waiting patiently beneath layers of history, and Wendy Jean was determined to uncover them all, one step at a time. Chapter 4. Tides of Emotion. Wendy Jean stood at the threshold of her family's home, the weight of the day's revelations pressing heavily on her shoulders. The twilight air was thick with the promise of rain, and the distant rumble of thunder mirrored the turmoil brewing within her heart. As she pushed open the door, the familiar warmth of the house wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. Inside, the aroma of Lennox's stew filled the air, mingling with the soft crackle of the fire in the hearth. Her father, James Jean, sat at the kitchen table, his brow furrowed as he pored over the evening paper. He looked up as she entered, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Wendy," he said, setting the paper aside. "You've been out all day. We were starting to worry." She offered a small smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I went to see Mr. Alaric," she explained, crossing the room to join him at the table. "He had some interesting things to say about Grandma's journal." James's gaze softened, but there was a tension in his posture that spoke of unspoken worries. "Your grandmother was always chasing after mysteries," he said carefully. "But you know how dangerous these old legends can be." Wendy nodded, understanding his hesitation. The tales woven into Eldergrove's history were laced with both wonder and peril, a duality that had drawn her grandmother in and now ensnared her as well. "I know it's risky," she admitted, meeting his eyes with determination. "But I feel like I'm meant to do this, Dad, like it's my responsibility." He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "I just don't want you getting hurt, Wendy. Your grandmother, she got so caught up in those stories that sometimes she forgot about everything else." A silence settled between them, heavy with memories and unsaid fears. Wendy reached for his hand across the table, squeezing it gently. "I promise I'll be careful," she said softly, "but I need to see this through, for her and for me." James studied her face for a long moment, searching for something in her eyes that only a father could recognize. Finally, he nodded, though his worry remained etched in the lines of his face. "Just promise you'll let us help when you need it," he said. Before Wendy could respond, Lennox appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "What's all this serious talk?" he asked with a teasing smile, though his gaze flickered with understanding. "We were just discussing Grandma's journal," Wendy replied, grateful for her grandfather's presence, "and how I'm going to keep following her path." Lennox nodded sagely, taking a seat beside them. "Your grandmother always said that every journey worth taking is paved with challenges, and that those who face them with an open heart will find their way." His words resonated within Wendy, echoing the lessons she had learned from both her encounters with the clockmaker and Alaric. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, an affirmation that she was not alone in this quest. The conversation turned to lighter topics as they shared dinner together, the warmth of family banter weaving through the room like threads of comfort and love. Yet beneath it all lay an undercurrent of anticipation, an acknowledgement that Wendy's journey was far from over. As they finished their meal and moved to the living room, where the fire crackled invitingly, Wendy found herself reflecting on everything that had transpired since she first discovered the journal. Each step had brought new questions and challenges, but also deeper connections to those around her. Her father's concerns were rooted in love. Lennox's wisdom offered guidance, and even Eldergrove itself seemed alive with secrets waiting patiently for someone willing to listen. "Do you think Grandma knew all along?" Wendy mused aloud as they settled into comfortable silence before the fire, its glow casting dancing shadows against the walls. Lennox chuckled softly beside her. "Oh, your grandmother knew plenty," he said fondly. "But she also believed some answers are meant to be found by each generation anew." Wendy smiled at this thought, the idea that perhaps her grandmother had left these clues not just as remnants of her own search, but as invitations for others to embark on their own journeys. As night deepened outside and rain began tapping gently against window panes like nature's lullaby, Wendy felt a sense of peace settle over her, a quiet certainty that whatever lay ahead would be met with courage born from love and legacy intertwined. Her family's support would be her anchor amidst tides of emotion, steadying her through storms yet unseen, while guiding her toward shores where truth awaited discovery beneath time's ever-flowing currents. With one last glance at Lennox and James, both now dozing comfortably in their armchairs, Wendy allowed herself to drift into dreams filled with echoes of past and future entwined, knowing tomorrow would bring new adventures along paths illuminated by those who had walked before her. And so ended another chapter in Wendy Jean's unfolding story, a tale woven from threads spun by fate itself, a journey guided by whispers carried upon windswept tides across landscapes both familiar and unknown, yet always leading toward destinations where forgotten clocks ticked softly beneath starlit skies, waiting patiently for someone brave enough to unlock their secrets anew. Chapter 5: Unveiling Shadows. The dawn broke gently over Eldergrove, casting a soft, golden hue across the village. Wendy Jean awoke with a sense of anticipation tingling in her veins. Today was the day she would explore the clock tower. Her grandmother's journal had led her to this point, and she felt both anxious and excited to uncover whatever lay hidden within its ancient walls. After a quick breakfast, Wendy donned her coat and tucked the brass key securely into her pocket. She found Lennox in the garden, tending to the roses as usual. He looked up as she approached, his eyes twinkling with a mix of pride and concern. "Off on another adventure, are you?" he asked, wiping his hands on his apron. Wendy nodded, her expression determined. "I'm going to the clock tower. I think there's something important there, something Grandma wanted me to find." Lennox studied her for a moment before nodding. "Be careful, Wendy. The past has a way of holding on to its secrets tightly." "I will," she promised, giving him a reassuring smile. "And thank you for everything." With a final wave, she set off toward the heart of Eldergrove, where the clock tower loomed like a silent guardian over the village. The streets were quiet at this early hour, and the mist that clung to the cobblestones seemed almost alive, swirling around her feet as if guiding her steps. As she reached the base of the clock tower, Wendy paused to take in its imposing presence. The stone structure was weathered by time, its once grand facade now marked by ivy and age, yet there was an undeniable majesty about it, a sense of history woven into every crevice. Taking a deep breath, she approached the heavy wooden door at its base. The brass key felt warm in her hand as she slid it into the lock. With a satisfying click, the mechanism yielded, and the door creaked open to reveal a dimly lit stairwell spiraling upward into darkness. Wendy hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her heart pounding with anticipation. The air was cool and damp, carrying with it the faint scent of old wood and stone. As she ascended the narrow staircase, each step echoed softly in the confined space. The climb seemed to stretch on forever, but finally she reached the top, a small landing with another door that led into the clock chamber itself. Taking a moment to steady her nerves, Wendy pushed it open and stepped inside. The chamber was vast and awe-inspiring, filled with the intricate mechanisms of the clock that had fascinated her since childhood. Sunlight streamed through narrow windows, casting dancing patterns on the floor as it filtered through dust motes suspended in the air. In one corner of the room stood a cluster of crates and boxes, artifacts long forgotten by time itself. Wendy approached them cautiously, her fingers brushing against their surfaces as if seeking permission to uncover their secrets. Among them lay items that seemed out of place: an old compass with strange symbols etched into its face, a faded map showing Eldergrove as it might have been centuries ago, and a locket containing a miniature portrait of her grandmother, a woman whose legacy had become intertwined with Wendy's own journey. As she sifted through these remnants of history, Wendy felt an inexplicable connection to everything around her, as if pieces of a puzzle were falling into place before her eyes. It was then that Susu, her loyal pet cat who had silently followed her up the stairs, padded over to nuzzle against her leg. Wendy smiled down at him, grateful for his comforting presence amidst such profound discoveries. "You always seem to know when I need you," she murmured softly, scratching behind his ears. Susu purred contentedly, but then did something unexpected. He trotted over to one of the crates and began pawing at it insistently. Curious about what had caught his attention so keenly, Wendy moved closer and carefully lifted its lid. Inside lay an assortment of papers covered in elegant script, documents that bore striking resemblance to those penned by her grandmother's hand. As she skimmed through them quickly yet reverently, her breath catching at each new revelation, Wendy realized they contained detailed accounts of rituals performed within Eldergrove over generations. Rituals designed not only to preserve balance, but also protect against impending catastrophe foretold by prophecy itself. Her mind raced with possibilities. Was this why her grandmother had been so captivated by these stories? Had she been part of something larger than herself? Something intended not just for preservation, but also renewal? Wendy's thoughts were interrupted by Susu's insistent meow, a reminder that while answers lay within reach, they would require courage tempered by wisdom if they were ever truly understood or harnessed effectively. Taking one last look around this chamber, where past met present so seamlessly, Wendy knew there remained much work ahead. Work requiring both introspection and action, if balance were ever truly restored amidst shadows cast long ago, yet still lingering today. With newfound determination burning brightly within her chest, and Susu faithfully at side, ready face whatever challenges awaited beyond this chapter's end, Wendy Jean turned toward exit, knowing full well journey continued, yet renewed sense purpose, guiding every step taken henceforth. And thus ended another chapter in unfolding saga where echoes past mingled freely, futures promise, each revelation bringing protagonist ever closer, unraveling mysteries binding Eldergrove Time's forgotten clock. Chapter 6. The Dance of Time. The clock tower's ancient mechanisms groaned as Wendy Jean descended the spiral staircase, her mind still reeling from the discoveries she had made in the chamber above. Each step echoed with the significance of what she had uncovered: her grandmother's legacy, the prophecy, and the role she now understood she was meant to play. Susu padded quietly beside her, his presence a comforting reminder that she was not alone in this journey. As she reached the bottom, the heavy door closed behind her with a thud that seemed to reverberate through her bones. Wendy paused for a moment, breathing in the cool, mist-laden air of Eldergrove. The village lay before her, its cobblestone streets winding like veins through a body that pulsed with history and secrets. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, an understanding that her path was intertwined with the very fabric of this place. Her thoughts turned to the prophecy, a cycle that must be completed to prevent catastrophe. The words echoed in her mind, urging her to act before it was too late. Wendy knew that she needed guidance, someone who could help her piece together the final fragments of this puzzle. With determination in her step, she made her way to the village square where the clockmaker's workshop stood like a sentinel at the edge of time itself. The building seemed to hum with energy as she approached, its walls vibrating with the rhythm of countless ticking clocks. The clockmaker greeted her with a knowing smile as she entered. "Ah, Miss Jean," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. I see you found something of interest. Windy nodded, pulling out the papers she had discovered in the tower. These documents. My grandmother wrote about rituals tied to the prophecy. I need to understand what they mean. He took the papers from her, examining them with an intensity that spoke of years spent deciphering time's mysteries. Your grandmother was indeed wise, he murmured, tracing a finger over the elegant script. These rituals are part of an ancient tradition, a dance of time meant to maintain balance. A dance? Windy repeated, intrigued by the notion. How do I perform it? The clockmaker chuckled softly, returning the papers to her. It's not just about movement, my dear. It's about understanding, connecting with the past, and embracing your role in shaping the future. Windy felt a shiver of excitement mingled with apprehension. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders, yet there was also a lightness, a sense that she was exactly where she needed to be. Will you help me? She asked, her voice steady despite the swirling emotions within. The clockmaker nodded, his expression one of solemn agreement. Together, we will unlock the secrets of this dance and restore balance to Eldergrove. Over the following days, Windy and the clockmaker worked tirelessly, deciphering each step of the ritual and rehearsing its intricate movements. The dance required precision and grace, a delicate interplay between past and present, woven into a tapestry of time. As they practiced in the shadow of the clock tower, Windy felt a growing connection to those who had come before her, guardians whose footsteps she now followed. Each movement spoke of stories untold. Each gesture whispered secrets long forgotten. Finally, on the eve of a new moon, a time when shadows stretched longest across Eldergrove, the stage was set for the ritual's culmination. The villagers gathered in quiet anticipation around the clock tower, their faces illuminated by flickering lanterns that cast warm pools of light upon cobblestones worn smooth by generations. Windy stood at the center of it all, her heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and exhilaration. Susu watched from a nearby perch, his eyes reflecting both loyalty and understanding. As she began to move through each step, guided by rhythms only she could hear, Windy felt an overwhelming sense of unity with everything around her. The village seemed alive with energy, its heartbeat synchronized with hers as if acknowledging this moment as pivotal in its history. Time itself seemed to hold its breath as Windy danced, a graceful interplay between light and shadow, past and future, fear and hope, all merging into one harmonious whole. With each turn and leap, each flourish and pause, she felt threads weaving together seamlessly beneath starlit skies above, a reminder that even amidst chaos there existed order waiting patiently beneath surface, ready reveal itself, those willing look beyond what visible. And then it happened. As if in response to her efforts, the frozen hands upon Eldergrove's ancient clock began slowly turning once more. A collective gasp rose from gathered crowd, their eyes wide awe witnessing miracle unfolding before them. Windy's heart soared, joy mixed disbelief, realization dawning upon all present, prophecy fulfilled, cycle complete, balance restored. In those moments following conclusion dance, village seemed transformed, revitalized, renewed sense possibility coursing through veins like lifeblood itself. Eldergrove had been given second chance, and so had Windy Jean. As villagers celebrated around her, Windy felt tears prick Corner's eyes, not sadness, but profound gratitude, realization she'd played part something far greater than herself. With Susu purring contentedly beside feet and Clockmaker offering congratulations' warm embrace, Windy knew journey far from over. Yet whatever lay ahead now seemed less daunting, more hopeful, knowing she'd forever connected not only place called home, but people shared it alongside. And so ended another chapter unfolding saga where echoes past mingled freely, futures promise. Each revelation bringing protagonist ever closer, unraveling mysteries binding Eldergrove Time's forgotten clock. A tale woven from threads spun by fate itself. A journey guided whispers carried upon windswept tides across landscapes both familiar unknown. Yet always leading toward destinations where forgotten clocks ticked softly beneath starlit skies. Waiting patiently, someone brave enough unlocks secrets anew.